What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Crypto Wise channel. My name is Dave. In this video, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin and where it's at and where it's going. This is a follow-up from the previous video that I made, the one about Bitcoin tapping 74K and then a big crash that I made 2 weeks ago. Okay, and this is another warning video. Basically, that Bitcoin is showing a lot of confluence factors that there is a big drop coming, and very soon, as early as Tuesday starting from what the charts are showing me. So yeah, welcome to the channel. This is a channel where we focus on technical, macro technical analysis, facts in the charts, so we can have clarity and ease of decision making in the crypto market, laying out the highest probabilities based on chart patterns, confluence, and indicators. No news, no hype, no narrative, just cool, calm, and focused. All right, guys, let's dive into it. And also, the another thing about this video is the reason why I'm sharing this now is because I wanted to let people know that there's still an opportunity to de-risk, right? And we're going to get into that. But let's first see where we're at. We're basically repeating the same cycle as the previous bear market. So where we are now here is basically there. We can even see the candle structure is very similar, right? We have the breakdown from the all-time high, a consolidation, a breakdown lower, and a pause halfway before the next move down. Here we have the breakdown from the all-time high, a consolidation, a breakdown from there, and a pause halfway down before the rest of the move, right? It looks very, very similar, and this is what I'm expecting to see. Right, we had talked about it in the previous videos about a bear flag. And every time we have a big move to the downside and a sideways consolidation, it usually talks about continuation to the downside, right? That's what the data is suggesting. In validation of this potential bear, well, let's just look at previous history real quick here. This is basically it here, right? So it's a somewhat sideways range in this case. A square consolidation, depending on how you look at it. It could have been measured this way as a kind of triangle formation like this, right? Depending on how you want to measure it, but either way, it ends up being a consolidation, a triangle formation. Sideways consolidation, or it looks more like a sideways consolidation in this case, so a square bear flag basically, right? So yeah, bear flag, let's look at that. And I think I've seen some on here that show the 3 different types, so we can see here, right? This one here is a good example. Why didn't it just pop up? That's a bull flag. This is a bear flag on the right here. So price comes down into a consolidation pattern and then breaks lower, and the expectation is that we will see the price make the same distance that it did prior. So in this case, this is the 2022 bear market. So we're using this as confluence factor. So if I measure from the start of the impulse down, and I put it here inside the bear flag to where the next impulse would start, you see the target was perfectly hit, and Bitcoin did a 40% drop, and even wicked lower into 45% drop, right? That's how you can make a measured move price target, right? Like the chart tells you basically where the price is likely to go if that pattern plays out. So we can see that in this case here, we had that consolidation here. I mean, you can measure it this way. I was measuring it this way as a triangle, right? Still a big bear flag, right? And then we had this measured move from peak to low, and then you put it inside the triangle like that, where the the impulse to the downside started and the target was hit, even wicked lower, just like last cycle. So now, if we go back to the previous cycle again, and we see that, yeah, we got that distance, right? And the target was met perfectly. So if we look at this as a bear flag now, by the way, I talked about this 74K getting tagged and then a big crash coming. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Yeah, if you're wondering how I knew 74 was going to get tagged and come down, you can just watch this video. I talk about it in here in good detail as to why. I mean, my aim isn't just about making calls here. It's about education. I want people to be empowered in how to read the charts and not just relying on me. But hopefully this is helping you guys learn. So anyways, bear flag, right? So this is basically a bear flag now. We have 2 touch points at the top, 2 touch points at the bottom. So there's your bear flag consolidation. Now that it's formed, we can rely on these areas as resistance and support. If it breaks the support, then we know that we have a target that this is likely to meet. So if I measure from the start of the impulse down to the wick low, and I put this inside of where the top likely is, which in this case would have, let's say it was here at 74K, then we have a move to about 46. I want to make sure that that's correct. Just give me a second here, because I think I'm on logarithmic. If I go on non-logarithmic, what does that do? Typically, yeah, so it could be further. So if I go non-logarithmic, then yeah, it goes inside the box. It's pretty far now, 37, 38. I don't know that it's going to go that far that fast. Alright, something I need to see here. How did it measure here? If I measure non-logarithmic, and I go from here to here, and I put it there, it didn't go as far. So, okay. It would be smarter to just aim lower, or not aim as aggressive. So, if I go into it as logarithmic, this bear flag is likely to hit about 46K. Boom, like this, from top to bottom. Yeah, 45, 46. So from that swing high to that low is about 38% down. Okay, and all coins are likely to do a lot more, 40, 50, 60% even on some coins. So that's the target, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is the reason why I'm sharing all this is because it's still an opportunity to de-risk. So let's talk about that, right? De-risking. All right, this is the last potential big move to the downside. Bitcoin had a big move to the downside here last cycle in the same section that we're in. Basically, if we were in the same section, and we're gonna have a big move down, it was essentially the last big move. I mean, from 18K down to the low is only 13%, right? I mean, there could have been another 35% from that swing high, but it's easier to kind of look at it doing it now to de-risk, just on a structural basis. So if you were to sell, actually before I go into that, I want to show you something why I think that we're going to pump probably Sunday or Monday and then come down likely at some point next week, probably Tuesday, because it happened here. So Bitcoin likes to make these double top sort of patterns, right? Before any sort of move to the downside, we have 1 top, 2 top, breakdown, right? Over here, before the impulse to the downside, we had 1 top, 2 top, breakdown, right? Even here, there's a little one here at the all-time high, 1 top, 2 top, breakdown, where the second high is to, if it's very bearish, the second high will just, the second peak will just be a lot lower than the first one, kind of like that one, or kind of like that one. And even when we broke down earlier in January, if I go on the 6-hour time frame, we can see that there was a double top at this peak. It's just a lot smaller. right? So there's the neckline there, one top, and then this ended up being what's called a half Batman, and then breakdown. So it's still a double top, just a very bearish one, because it didn't even try to make another high. It just kind of went flat and then broke down. So we could see something like that happen. So very likely that we go up probably in a Sunday, Monday, and then see a move to around, I would say probably at the very least the top of the range here, so around here ish. So let's say 71. Okay. Let's see the 4-hour. Yeah, that seems about right. So at the very least, we'll see a move to about 71. And we could go as high as the 786, which should be around 72,500 at this point. All right, so somewhere between, at the 50% retracement, I would say somewhere between 70, let's call it 70,600 and 72,500. So this will be the range where I think Bitcoin's going to go to make this double top before we actually roll over. Oops, let's not do that. I'm just trying to get this line here purple. No, let's move this over. Right, so there's the range there. Let's get rid of this box. So I'm sharing this range because you're looking at de-risking. It's probably going to come up first before it comes down, right? And we'll make this one orange. So there's the range here. So likely scenario, we range up like this, make a double top. It might just come straight up like that. Monday high, Tuesday breakdown, and then it just does something like this, like that, and then by next week we'll be breaking down pretty aggressively into this box. So, and this is just based on previous history. If I were to overlay, it's creepy how much this consolidation is so similar to here. So if I were to overlay this, maybe I'm getting too much into details here, but we can see now that this is playing out almost identical. This doesn't always happen this way, guys, by the way. Sometimes it doesn't, but like sometimes it does. So if I show you how very similar this is, I need to stretch it out a little bit. So if I stretch it out and I make it a little wider, so it's pretty similar, right? So timing isn't like perfect, but structure-wise, yeah, you see like that? Pretty crazy, huh? It is possible that we consolidate like this for a little while into the following weekend, and then we break down because there's a new moon. But I'm a little bit skeptical that that would happen. I'm a little bit skeptical. We could, but yeah, I mean, we could start breaking down before and end up down here, and the new moon just pushes us further. New moons are usually local tops. So there's a scenario where we could chop around like this for a little while and then break down, okay? So that's actually very possible. At the very latest, it would make sense that we're breaking down out of this triangle by early next week, around the 16th, I would say. 16th or the 17th, right around the new moon. So that is a possibility. But we could break down earlier, okay? Because this very much looks like the left side of a double top. That's why I was like, maybe we break down sooner, and then the new moon just holds us further down, and then we end up, yeah, bottoming. So, but you know, nothing's certain at this point, but it certainly looks pretty close. So this would be a great place to de-risk. So let's say let's talk about the de-risking now. If you had, let me just zoom out here on the daily. So if you were going to de-risk and you had 100K, okay, you sold in this box the target was hit perfectly. Let's say you sold around 72,500. We'll take the higher range. And then very likely that this bear flag target won't be the bottom. So let's say that Bitcoin did bottom here and you ended up buying at like the bottom of this box, this target that I have, 37,600, right? That 100K that you sold. If you were to buy your 100K here, by the time you get back to where the price was, you'd be up 95%, right? You'd double up. So your 100K would turn into 200K, pretty much. Let's just round it up. So you'd double your money. So now the difference is, if you didn't sell, right, at all. But let's think about, actually, let's think about where the price would go. Now you have 200. Now you bought your 100K lower, and let's say Bitcoin goes to, hypothetically, it goes to 200K next cycle. You're up 437% on your 100K here. So that's what? That math, man. Hopefully my mic's working. I just realized I wasn't even talking in the mic. Shit. Oh my goodness. I really don't want to redo this video. Okay. So then we have 100K times 437%. Yeah, 437K. So it's just 1 to 1. 437K. Oh, it's the multiplier that adds 1. Because 200% is actually 3x. 3x your total money. So 437K, right? You'd be at 437K in this situation. But if you just held it through the bear market, your 100K would be only 173. So you'd be up. So in this case, yeah, you're up for 430K. Yeah, 437K. And in the other situation, you're only up 174K from your amount. So you're not just doubling, you're more than doubling your money because of your entry point is a lot lower. So that's kind of how that math works, right? This is why de-risking makes a lot of sense. And yet the distance between where you bought to where you're selling is, it doesn't seem that much further, but it's percentage wise, right? Yeah. So there we go. De-risking still makes sense as long as the selling points and the buying points are further down and Bitcoin ends up going higher. You're looking at making more money anyways, right? And seeing as how we're in a bear market and Bitcoin likes to do things in a pattern, cyclical pattern, and is predictable in that pattern, nothing's guaranteed, of course, but it helps us assess to make these kind of decisions. So anyways, that's kind of my thesis on de-risking. Big move coming down. There's too many signs. We could be, it's also possible, another scenario is that it's possible that we actually go up into this week and see a slightly higher high, and then we break down like that to tap the top of the range again. That would likely be a massive move to the downside because I highly doubt we're going to go any higher. But it looks pretty bearish, and there's let me get the RSI in here. There's also the relative strength index. As soon as this trend line breaks on this RSI, it's basically saying the momentum is negative, and we are going to see a big move to the downside. So I draw a trend line on the supports. As soon as this breaks down out of this trend line, it's done. Like it's going to start coming down. So that's my leading indicator that I'd be watching. In case you're wondering, well, how do you know? You know. But either way, I think that selling anywhere in this range makes sense, even if you don't get it perfectly. If you're on spot, like it's not that big of a deal. You don't need to get it perfect. If you miss a few percent, not a big deal, because like you can see that like from 70,700 is, you know, a 38% move down, and then from a little higher is, you know, 41% down. Not that big of a deal, right? A few percent isn't going to make or break anything. So either way, selling somewhere between even where it is now to, you know, 73 is makes a lot of sense before it breaks down. So yeah, that's basically it. One thing I want to say is that if we do see a breakdown, if we chop around here for a little while, I think the much later case that we repeat something like this, where we had a full moon and then new moon top and then we broke down, that could take a little bit of time. That maybe we top around the new moon, which is next week. That's what I was saying, early next week. It could be when we break down. Not this Monday, the following Monday, because the new moon is on the 18th, I believe. And new moon tops are very common. So yeah. All right, guys. Hopefully this is helpful, and we learned something here. Like, share, subscribe, support the channel. I have a if you're looking to trade on zero fees, I have a MEXC referral link in the description below. That'll help support the channel, and it's much appreciated. And all right, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.